Heya! So, I'm Kawana-ganto, I'm a VTuber and sometimes PNG tuber, and as you probably already guessed, I make videos on the internet. Recently I came back to Undertale and Deltarune fandom, even made my preview of a fan game. It's pretty bad, but if you want, you can play it, I'm stopping you. So, since I recently finished Chapter 3 and will be playing Chapter 4 soon, plus I kinda need to make a video, let's do the most popular form of content on the internet. Let's be negative. Okay, quick disclaimer, I don't dislike Chapter 3, but there are a lot of aspects about it that I really wanted to complain about. Yeah, the first time I played the chapter I was really like, ooh, new Deltarune content, yay, yippee! But now after finishing it, it's obvious that it's just not as good. So let's just quickly run through my complaints. I'll just quickly run through all of my complaints in no specific order. Either way, let's get into it. Again. So, Tenna was interesting. I like how visually he looks. Having a character that's completely in a different style as, everyone else is very interesting, not gonna lie. Other than that, I can't much say about his design. Yeah, his character is kind of interesting and he has an actual reason to be a bad guy. Moreover, ties to dreamers and, it was interesting to see him in action. But in case of design, it's not much is happening there. Yeah, that's what I expected him to look like. TV head, suit, talks weird. So yeah, even though I put this as my complaint, I understand that this is just a preference thing. Some people like his design, some people like it less, but other than that, I'm just not the biggest fan of it. But also, there's a very specific picture that keeps popping into my mind every time I see his design. And it's just haunting. What can I say? So, I'll tell you in advance, words wasted potential will be mentioned a lot in this video. And as for our first mention of it, Toriel and Undyne. I don't know how everyone else is feeling about Toriel and Undyne inclusion in Chapter 3, but I didn't really like it. Once we realized that Toriel and Undyne will be in the next Darkworld, everyone was like, yay, we'll have some other characters in Darkworld and we'll see how they act there and, stuff like that. And a lot of people were excited about possibilities for weird route and stuff. But I personally just wanted to see how Toriel or Undyne would interact with the main cast. But instead we just got Toriel sleeping through the whole chapter and Undyne coming in the end to get kidnapped by the night. To be honest, I kinda understand Undyne's situation. The possibility of Undyne being in a Darkworld is so cool. But even though she appeared much less than we wanted, she at least served a good purpose. Because of her, we now have a new plot about trying to get into the shelter. And technically, who else would be brave enough to fight the knight other than her? So yeah, I can understand why she's in this chapter. But Toriel is so much different. Toriel in this chapter is used more like a tool, hey, you need to get to the end of the chapter because you need to save Toriel, but at the same time we already have Fountain as the main mechanism that moves the plot forward. So I don't see why we needed Toriel in that way. I mean, she could have easily been worldly and just walked around in the chapter, but we couldn't have her in our party. But at the same time, I guess it is kind of weird to complain about things that I wanted to happen not happening as I wanted. That's a mouthful of a sentence, but be with me for a second. There was a lot of fan interpretations about Chapter 3 because, we had a pretty long wait. But at the same time, it's kind of weird to base our expectations on fan content. And I have to admit that my judgment might be clouded by these fan ideas because I really like them, and how actually chapter ended up was a bit not what I wanted. So maybe, yeah, I admit some of these complaints are a bit unnecessary, but still, I wanted to voice my opinion. The Darkworld itself is a bit of lost opportunity. We have a TV Darkworld, which is fun, it's cute, it's great, but we barely were in it. Moreover, the whole place is just a circle. If you look at where you started and ended the chapter, it's pretty much at the same place. Moreover, if I understand the rules of Deltarune, we made the Darkworld in a specific room. So why only TV part of it is what is, there? Yes, you can say that there's a couch and whatever is with those purple heels. I mean, sure, yeah, if we are going into the TV world aesthetic, then maybe we could have just made it a bit more? but essentially all that happened, we had mini stories inside of the actual story. But I feel like instead we could have had different types of game shows, like Spin the Wheel, or maybe some kind of guessing game about the prize. Just there's a lot of different things that are happening on TV, but we did barely anything with it, and majority of it just went into the mini games, which is not bad. I like the mini games. I like the cute outfits. I feel like we could have done more with that world, but at the same time, right now I don't have any ideas that I could have done, so I guess I'm no better. I don't know. The enemies in this chapter just confuse me, because up until now, and literally at the start of this chapter, we established that specifically all the different objects that are in different rooms or houses or whatever are those who become Darkners. In TV world, I feel like we lost the plot a little. We have Zapper, who's a TV remote. Okay, that makes sense, obviously. Shutter, okay, camera, TV world, I guess it ties together, why not? But what's the deal with Pippins? I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Either way, it is established that Pippins are essentially the dices, or just parts of the board game. Essentially they're from the first Darkworld. And it is explained that all of them are just little toys or things that we brought with ourselves from the classroom. But then I feel like if we are making this Darkworld not about just TV, and we are sticking to the theme of like sofa, then I feel like we could have done even more different enemies that are like lost items, instead of just, rehashing the enemy that was in the first chapter, but barely appeared. Shadow guys. What are they? Are they just shadows? What are they? Can someone explain? Oh, and of course there was this, I don't even remember how it's called, like dust bunny / frogget hybrid? That makes sense. Those just dust, stuck in the sofa. That works. I don't mind that. One of my most favorite things about this chapter is how chaotic the freaking secret boss of this game is, or this chapter, So, up until now, we had a pretty steady situation with secret bosses. You have some small little depressed guy who saw the future from the Shadow Crystal, and now you have to do some small quest for them to fight with them. And lastly, they have the best music out of anyone in their chapter. But chapter 3 does something different. Instead of having a secret boss, they have what I like to call a secret triad. Firstly, there's a Royal Knight, who is a, technical secret boss of the chapter. If you defeat them, you get a Shadow Crystal, which is essentially the main thing that ties everyone together, specifically the secret bosses. But I personally wouldn't call that a secret boss, because the only secret part about this boss is the fact that you can beat it. And technically, if you don't suck like I do, you can beat it. Then there's a Shadow Mantle, or ERAM, or whatever it's called. This is specifically what I would call a secret boss, because this is a boss fight that you can only get if you get the S rank in both stages and you do the mini game or whatever. Majority of people are not gonna get the S rank or the Z rank, which not everyone probably even knows about, on the first try. So, I can admit that this is a secret boss. But after you beat it, you don't get a Shadow Crystal. Instead, you get a Shadow Mantle, which is essentially just some armor that you can use to survive the boss fight with the Royal Knight. And then lastly, there's my favorite, Ram. I just love Ram. Out of all the characters that were in this chapter, Ram is my favorite. Why do I consider Ram to be also a part of this? Well, he has the most secret bossy vibe. He talks about freedom, chaos, he's also very self-aware, and he has his own goal. He wants to make Chris happy or whatever, but he never becomes a secret boss. But every time you go to the secret room, you do meet him, and you do have conversations with him. And the last conversation you have is when he half becomes statue. And then he says the infamous line about showing Chris some real fun. After which, the boss fight with ERAM happens. And when you beat it and you come back, he is nowhere to be seen. So, was he just a red herring? Or was he supposed to be a secret boss fight and then just got scrapped? We may never know. So yeah, I think that's about all the complaints that I have. And let me reiterate for yet another time, I don't have the problem with this chapter. I just personally didn't like it as much as the first two. And I hope you understand that, because I have friends who are friends of Deltarune, and they seem to really not understand my point. Moreover, they I wouldn't say hate me for it, but they really don't like the fact that I didn't vibe with this chapter as much. It's just that this chapter is just so different. Maybe that's the problem. I'm the person who doesn't like change, and that's my fault for not liking that this chapter is different. It doesn't have to be anything. When you play it, you have fun. That's what all chapters did up until now. So maybe the real complaint of this chapter is me. No, it's just terrible. What am I saying? I mean, come on. Just pulling Royal Knight out of nowhere and making a completely different plot that now instead of closing the Dark Fountains, we go and try to get to the shelter. And Toriel should have had her own sovereign Undyne, she should have died, and that was obviously all jokes. The chapter was just alright, just not to my liking, but I hope you like this video. Obviously, if you have something to say, you can write it in the comments. So yeah, that's about all. So thanks for watching and bye-bye. Hope you are having, will have already had a really good day. And see you after chapter 4. And see you after chapter 4. And see you after chapter 4. Bye!